half a day, and welcome to Coffee with the Candidates. This series was created to educate and inform Guam's voting population on the positions candidates running for office take on some of the island's most controversial topics. Democratic senatorial candidate Amanda Shelton and Republican Benito Servino sit and share their political views on this episode of Coffee with the Candidates, coming up on the other side of this break.
Half a day. I'm Patty Arroyo with News Talk K57. Welcome to Coffee with the Candidates. I'm sitting here with Amanda Shelton. She's running for a seat in the 35th Guam legislature this time around. Good morning and hello. How are you?
Half a day. Good morning, Patty. I'm great. Thank you for having me, and thanks to Sorensen for this opportunity.
It is fantastic to have you. It's a good opportunity to speak with you face to face on your reasons for running for office. You came from communications and you want to get right in there in the fray.
Yes, absolutely. I've been working as the press secretary for Congresswoman Berdalio for nearly 5 years now, but I've always felt a strong call to public service. I've come from a family of
you have the DNA.
I have it in me, but beyond politics, they've really instilled the values of public service and respect and just always to give back. And I think that these are the values that have really shaped me and have really inspired me to want to embrace those values to help move our island forward.
How can you do it from your perspective? Being in the media, seeing on the other side what we are asking of communication specialists in the political field. How do you feel the media serves and what role does it have in governments?
Sure. The media serves a very, very important role in government. I think that you are vital partners in everything that we do because like working for the Congresswoman, we have to get her message out some way, and we have to get the work that she's doing and what's important to our community. And the media partners really help to bring that out to the people. And now with social media and everything, all the information at our fingertips, it's a really important time to ensure that we are giving the right information out. And that's an important part of our partnership.
Well, that's good to know. It's good to know. It does actually also help to shape public opinion. We sometimes call ourselves the original public hearing. Do you take, and in your experiences, have you taken away from these comments of the public while listening to the media and applied it to how the government should act or the activity of the Congresswoman?
Sure, I think that the media really helps to hold public officials and leaders accountable for their actions. I think that what we hear, like from your callers in the morning or throughout the day on K57, that feedback really helps us to understand what the public is concerned about and what we can do better.
Yeah, well, you're also coming from the perspective of witnessing federal stuff. I mean, you've watched these issues. Have you seen any issues on the federal level that Guam has been fighting for or dealing with that can translate into local legislation if you make it into the legislature?
Translate into local legislation. Well, for that particular question, the example that I can think of now about a big federal issue that I saw come to fruition recently was the war claims process, and just seeing how that was something that the Congresswoman fought for all of these years, and she promised to the people of Guam that she would never give up on it. And in the last term, we were able to really help that process through and work with our war survivors recently. And I know that there is local legislation that recognizes the War Survivor Remembrance Day, and just bringing to the forefront that history and helping us to remember all of that throughout, not just throughout the summer months and during liberation time, but throughout the whole year, to recognize that importance in our history.
Yeah. So what are some of the issues that you want to tackle locally? What have you been watching that everybody else has been watching with interest?
For me, I have a real passion for helping our people, especially our Manamku. So I want to focus on services that help them and programs that empower our Manamku. And I think that our culture is really rooted in this respect for our elders and the people who have given so much to our island and guided us. And I want to see that in our policy and the programs that we bring out to help them.
How did this happen to you? I got to ask you. You come from politics, obviously, with your father, the late Sonny Shelton. Now you've got a brother who is in the sciences. You gained political knowledge, obviously, from somewhere. Was your dad a big influence on you?
Definitely a huge influence on me, and he played such a vital role in my life, always encouraging us to help others, to be there for others, and just the importance of family and the importance of our community. And so that's something that I bring with me every day. And as I've been on the campaign trail, it's amazing to hear people who say that when my dad was a senator, or whatever he was at whatever part of his life, that he helped them in some way, he touched them in some way. And that's really inspiring for me every day to keep me going and remember why I feel called to public service and want to do this job.
Does it make a difference that you're a millennial and that you're a female? Those are two strikes that can work for or against you.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that. I hear lots of people out on the trail again telling me, like, are you sure this is what you want to do? You don't have a family, you don't have, or, you know, my own family, right. I'm not married. And I just think that that really drives me more, because that's something that I do want down the line, and I want to make sure that the future of Guam is good for our future families and the things that I want down the line. So I know that that's a driving force for me.
Are there other female issues, though? Because there are some of them that are pretty controversial on Guam. We argue about them all the time. What do you think the female perspective will bring to the office?
Well, I think that as a woman, I have an understanding of the disparity, maybe in the workplace, or you know, pay equity and issues like that. And I will take those on and really make sure those are brought to the forefront and important in the legislature.
Are you worried about the margin of error? You know, jumping into the Guam Congress building and having a seat with the placard that has your name as a senator. Are you worried about what is the margin of error for you?
Sure, it's something that I think about often, but I also feel really ready to do the job. I've been working you know, in policy for almost 10 years in the Guam legislature as a chief of staff, and then in the Congresswoman's office dealing with federal issues. So I think I bring a unique perspective I will bring a unique perspective to the job, and I'm ready to work hard. You know, I'm giving my 100% or more than 100% commitment to what I'll be doing. And I've served in so many different organizations, volunteer groups, that I think that, you know, those experiences really will help me to just have a holistic view of how we can help our island.
Do you have anyone who mentors you? Do you have anybody who talks you off of the ledge? Who's your go-to squad?
Well, of course, I have my family who, you know, they're really my backbone. They're so encouraging, and, you know, give me the values and everything that I need to move forward, especially in the campaign. But I have some, you know, really trusted professors at the University of Guam who have been with me since my undergrad career up until my master's just a few months ago, and you know, just really good friends that do that for me. And of course, the Congresswoman and my colleagues and my former bosses who have been there for me and encouraging me throughout.
What about your girlfriends? Who are your girlfriends?
My girlfriends. Who are my girlfriends?
You want to name them or no? You don't have to if you don't want to. But.
Sure. Actually, my best friend, I'll give her a shout out. She's getting married in a couple weeks, so we're celebrating her and her, you know, new chapter of life. So Valerie Jesus.
Okay, you got to ask a girl about her best friends, because especially a girl like you, single, you rely on them as your family. So that could be the backbone of your support group. There's a lot of expectation. I don't know what you feel like going into this, but there's a lot of expectation for the newbies, because a lot of and I hope you don't take an exception to that, but there is a whole breed of lawmaker that is leaving a mass exodus, leaving the legislative level. And I think they'll expect a lot.
Absolutely.
Are you worried about that? I would be scared to death.
I don't know if it's worried, but a feeling of worry, but I think it's a motivating factor for me to want to do my best and to understand all of the issues and the concerns of the people so that I can help address those, you know, if I'm fortunate enough to be a policymaker in the future.
Do you find that people, when they view women like you, who are entering or who are in this political world, that you're sort of just blanketly labeled as, you know, especially if you're a Democrat, you know, a Hillary lover, you know, pro-abortion, anti-Trump. I mean, all of the things that come with being labeled.
I don't really find it that way here on Guam. I think, you know, we kind of have a different perspective on island, which I don't feel that I've been labeled those things. So
that's not a battle. You're right there. The perspective on Guam is there's a little more of acceptance of a female role. Mm-hmm. Did you find that in Washington more? Was that did you feel like you were treated differently?
I think on the Hill, my experiences in the DC office with the congresswoman were always very positive, and especially with the colleagues that I worked with. So that wasn't something I viewed as a problem there, but. If I did, I always just tried to make the best of it and keep working for what we were doing.
Are you tough?
I am. I'm tough. Most people see me as a real sweetheart, but I know like being a policymaker means being able to make the tough decisions and having people questioning you all the time, which I'm prepared
because you
for.
seem so soft-spoken in almost everything. I'd want to know what your sort of demonstrative self would be in the forum of a session where, you know, there's a lot of lawmakers arguing back and forth. You find you'll take a tough stance. That would be expected.
I think so. When the tough decisions need to be made, when I need to stand up for things that are really important, especially you know, to our island, then I'm ready to do that. But also doing it with respect and doing it. I understand that I'm a young person and I'll be amongst other people in the legislature, oversight hearings, or chairing a committee perhaps where I'll be the youngest person in the room, you know, under 30. And I understand that I need to come to different situations respectfully, but also being stern and standing my ground.
Thank you so much for taking the time. I appreciate it. Good luck to you.
Thank you
You're
so much.
You're watching Coffee with the Candidates. Amanda Shelton, remember the name. We'll be right back.
Thank you.
Welcome back to Coffee with the Candidates. I'm Patty Arroyo. I'd like to introduce, probably you already know him, a two-time candidate for a Guam legislature, Ben Servino. Hi.
Hi, how's it?
Half a day. Is there anything that you would like to say to open up our conversation?
Sure. I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself. I was born and raised in Benito. I'm currently the director for the Department of Integrated Services for Individuals with Disabilities. I've got over 30 years of government service, 10 years with the federal government, 10 years with the state of California, and now with Gov Guam, 10 years.
Yeah, I've known you really for your time at DISID. That can be very rewarding work, but it can also be very frustrating because I don't know whether or not or how you feel. Does the government support this effort to employ and to give confidence and job security to those persons with disabilities? Do we do a good enough job?
You know, I think the government tries to do its best, and a lot of it deals with funding. That's a major challenge that a lot of agencies have to deal with. But there is a local law called the 2% law, which requires 2% of the workforce within the Gov Guam sector be comprised of people with disabilities that are referred from the Department of Integrated Services, the DVR unit. You know, every year we conduct the National Disability Employment Awareness Month activities. So we try to educate the community about the benefits of hiring people with disabilities. People with disabilities want to work, they're just not given that opportunity because, again, the discriminatory acts that occur in the community. Mm-hmm. So we want to try to provide the tools so people can be more competitive out in the market.
You know what I've noticed, that I've noticed in a place like, well, in other jurisdictions, like, for example, in the state of Hawaii, I don't know if you have taken any time, like for when you go through the airport, and all of those little stores, and I think that they're it's a government-run agency, of course, but in all of those stores, almost all of the employees there have been placed by that program. And so all of the employees or the cashiers and the like, they're all persons with disabilities. It's interesting. Is there a way, or do we have the mechanism to saturate some of these positions, much needed positions, that maybe jobs that other people really don't find to be necessarily a challenge?
Absolutely. And you know, there are local laws, like I said, I mentioned the 2% law. There's the Vending Act, which allows people with disabilities to have priority within any government facility to set up their own vending stand. And we're looking at exploring to, again, self-employment opportunities. People with disabilities can own their own businesses. We can provide them a vending stand that can go sell out in the community, like in
That's funding for them.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. There's opportunities within Guam, the private sector, even within the federal government. And the federal contractors. There's a lot of federal contractors here in Guam that are getting contracts on the military bases. And they have a utilization rate of 7% that they need to look at.
Okay, so
there's a lot of
mechanism.
Affirmative action programs that are available.
Now, I'm assuming that with the knowledge that you've gained, that's not the only platform that you would have for your campaign. Is the experience that you've had with DISID or going to be part of your platform? And are there other topic areas?
Oh, definitely. You know, as we look at all the priorities here in Guam, the issue of healthcare, the issue of public safety, education, transportation, you know, the gamut of housing, these all impact on that population, people with disabilities. My platform focuses on the most vulnerable population, including the youth, people with disabilities, the manumku, the veterans. These are people that have unmet needs, and I want to focus on those needs. And when you look at that population and you address those needs, it's ultimately going to help everybody else. A good example, let me share a good example. You know, having a route that's designed for people with disabilities, right? But everybody benefits from that universal design. People with strollers, family members with kids, delivery men that have dollies. So it helps everybody in the long run. Even the doorknobs, when you look at your doorknobs, they have levers. In the past, they used to be regular round ones. Now we're finding a lot of manumku that try to turn it because of arthritis. They have a difficult time turning it.
Simple things, simple little life issues like that can make a huge impact, and even on the other populations.
And my experience with my mother, this is one of the reasons why I came back. Believe it or not, I never thought I'd ever come back to Guam. I, you know, had no desire to come back. I was doing well in California. I retired from the state of California. But you know, as I look back in Guam and the people that are really suffering and having these unmet needs and getting the offer to come back and help make a difference made me want to come back. And having to come back and spend time with my mother for 4 years, and she had dementia, she had a stroke, and to see her, you know, regress down to the point where she couldn't do very much, and finding difficulties and challenges of caregivers that are trained to take care of her was very challenging, especially for somebody with dementia.
Yeah. Do you think that the average voter knows this about you?
I don't think so. I think they see me more as an ADA compliance advocate because I'm always out there monitoring the accessible parking, the accessibility into a store or to a restaurant. But I look at myself as a life experience. You know, the life experience of how you experience your life and coming back to Guam and seeing all the challenges that people have to face. I want to give back and make Guam a better place to live, you know, and be a part of that.
Could you do that in the 35th Guam legislature any more than you could do it being on the ground?
Oh, absolutely. Having the experience in the executive branch, knowing how the system works, taking it to a different level as a policymaker. And a good example is the accessible parking law. There's a lot of challenges with the accessible parking law, and it needs to be amended so that there's more teeth to it. and there's a lot of abuse that occurs. So I want to try to correct that. You know, as you look at all the challenges that are faced by our community, you want to go in there and find the resources and creatively work with your colleagues and not make it a partisan issue, make it a collaborative issue and addressing it together and partnering to come up with solutions that are going to address these problems in our community.
What did you do in California that kept you away from Guam for so long?
I left Guam because there wasn't really much opportunity.
When was
Guam. That was back in 2001. My daughters were graduating from high school. My wife says it's time for us to go back and give them a better education. And you know, her family was out there. So I thought it would only be fair for me to go back and support her and her family. She missed her mother. She hadn't seen her mother for years. So I said, let's do it. And thank God I was hired at the university.
Which university?
Cal State University, East Bay,
Yeah.
Hayward.
Yeah.
And the tuition was all paid for because I worked in the university. So they waived all the tuition fees from my kids. So I saved a lot of money.
Yeah, I guess so. That's
and it was great because being an employee of the university, because I left Guam, I was working for UOG, University of Guam, the Guam System for Assistive Technology. So it was a really smooth transition into another institution of higher education.
Yeah.
I fitted in really well.
Well, now that you've been back to Guam, you've fully assessed the situation, you're running a second time. What's the difference between the first time you ran and this second time that you're running?
You know, when I first ran, I only had 4 months to campaign. That didn't give me enough time, and I wasn't really prepared. But I was asked to run, so I took that opportunity and I learned a lot. So it all had to do with planning. And I took that time to plan strategically how to set this up. I had a team I always met every week with, you know, that took care of the fundraising, the logistics, everything, the social media campaign. So, you know, I think it's all about planning and reaching out to the community. I went down to the South. My mother told me, if you're gonna run, go down to the South, because that's the grassroots. Meet the people, start there and then work your way up north. Because I live in Benito, the north. Most people know me in the north.
Yeah.
But down south, I don't know very many people. So I need to go and do the grassroots stuff. I learned that from Senator Underwood. You know, Robert Underwood. You know, he was running, and he really focused on the South, the grassroots. And I said, you know, I got to do that.
So if you win the South, then you have a chance.
Yes, I truly believe in that. My mother taught me that. She says, you know, you got to start in the South, and you got to start with your family, work with your family, and work with the grassroots, and then work your way up north. And you know, my father's Filipino. A lot of people don't know that. My mother's Chamorro. So I'm a half-breed, so I always have to look at so I always have to look at that two population, you know, and target.
Well, you can, and they're both target. They're both target groups.
Yes.
Is it harder to get into the Chamorro side than it is to get into the Filipino side? Which is
I think
more?
It's harder in the Filipino side because I was born and raised here in Guam.
Yeah.
And I've acclimated to Chamorros, and you know, I grew up in Benito. And I, even though I don't speak Chamorro, I practice it. They call it Chamorro Appeling, you know?
Yeah.
But, you know, my Filipino side, I really haven't really connected with them because they're in the Philippines. And I was raised here. I have 4 other siblings that were born in the Philippines, but they were raised here in Guam.
Yeah, that's the difference. But are you accepted in the Filipino community? Having a last name that's Filipino, does that get you places? Because Arroyo doesn't do anything for me, just so you know.
I believe so. Yeah. I think people see me as a Filipino, even though, believe it or not, the name Servino is not Filipino, it's Italian.
Oh, well.
Because the traders traded in the Philippines. But, you know, I have the Filipino side, that my family in the Philippines that have come to Guam, and you know, I have a mixture of both. So I think it blends well, and you know, I work very well with them. I'm learning to start speaking Filipino and Chamorro because that's one of the things that I have to learn.
Well, you've got a leg up on that. That's pretty good. Listen, congratulations on the second run. I wish you well.
Thank you so much.
And if you get into the 35th Guam legislature, I'm sure we'll be talking more.
Absolutely. Thank you for
that does
having
it.
me here.
Absolutely. That does it for this episode of Coffee with the Candidates. I'm Patty Arroyo.